Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tax-Exempt Millionaire Club Live. I'm your host, Jane. The purpose of our TMC Live is to feature our members to come and share with us with their wins and their lessons in the real estate investment world, as well as their expertise. As you can see, today we have a guest, Jeffery Lyon. He is an expert in the cybersecurity world, which is a very important topic for all of us. Let's get started for Jeffery to give us an introduction.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to our conversation. A little more about me. I'm Jeffery Lyon, and I have a cybersecurity company called TheCyberWild, and we're based out of the Charlotte metro area. We work all over the USA and Canada.
Thank you, Jeffery. Appreciate your time coming here. So let's get it started. The first question I'm going to ask you is cybersecurity. We all know it's all over the news sometimes. It's a big company, they got cybersecurity attack. What does it really mean when we say cybersecurity for business owners and all the investors today?
Absolutely. Cybersecurity, people, used to mean slapping an antivirus onto your computer and leaving it on and hoping that nothing else happens. But today it's about protecting everything that keeps your business running. Your email, your contacts, your investor communications, client trust, and even your identity, especially your identity. For business owners and investors, cybersecurity is now about resilience. It's making sure that a breach, a phishing scam, or ransomware attack doesn't derail you and freeze your funds or ruin your reputation. Instead of an IT issue, I like to think of it more as a risk management issue.
Definitely. So we all want to have that cybersecurity in place before anything tragic could happen to any of the business owners. So our group is all about real estate investors, wealth builders. For this particular group, can you give us some advice for our unique challenges?
Yeah, you have unique challenges because you're dealing with some very valuable data, and often unseen until it's too late. Real estate investors handle sensitive information like wire instructions or tax documents, partner details, and often large financial transfers. And it really makes them a prime target for cyber criminals. And also, many investors rely on small teams or virtual assistants who don't always follow security protocols. They use Gmail, DocuSign, Dropbox, and they think they're fine until a phishing attempt reroutes a wire transfer worth $200,000, just vanishes in thin air. So the unique challenge, you're not just protecting your money, you're protecting your reputation. And one mistake, and no one wants to partner with you again.
People often think cybersecurity is for big or mid-sized companies, but even a smaller company or just individual solo entrepreneurs are still subject or prone to this kind of cybersecurities. So can you share a real story when ignoring cybersecurity to some financial losses or anything you experience and you can share with us?
Sure, I have several things I can tell you about. One's in healthcare, but we'll talk about real estate right now. So there's a company that had an email account that was compromised, but they still didn't know. And the attacker sat quietly just watching the network for weeks without giving any hint that they were being observed. And they were reading all the threads and learning who the title company was and wiring timelines and also the final amount. But on closing day, a fake wire instruction email went out. Looked just like it came from the investor. And all of a sudden, $187,000 was sent to a fraudulent bank account. They couldn't get it back. The title insurance company didn't cover it. And the FBI was sympathetic, but slow. That investor ended up in a lawsuit with a partner. It started with a weak email password, just a weak email password.
Wow, that could be very tragic, especially when people don't think about it. It is actually in our day-to-day operation. So sometimes That's why some of the website, they ask you to change password every 6 months or 8 months. So it's super important. I have this question about the misconception. So when we think about cybersecurity, anything related to cybersecurity, any of the common misconception you could mention to us?
I don't know, I would call them misconceptions, but it's not as complicated as people make it to be. You think of the word cybersecurity and hackers, for example. You think of these people sitting in the dark room with a hoodie on and that stereotype of that. But no, it's not always like that. Most of the time, it's not like that. It can be organized criminal gangs that are doing these type of things, and many times from outside of the country.
Yeah, I think it's like what the example you just gave us, right? They are super smart, right? They watch and then they do phishing email or the fake wire instructions. So they become super smart. If we are not smarter enough, sometimes it's very easy to trap into any kind of cybercrime, any kind of situation like that.
And sometimes it's even your information might be gathered by these people, but they might not be the ones that attack you. They take your information and sell it on the dark web for the highest bidder or for a best price. Along with the ransomware is a service that can attack you.
In that regard, let me ask you, this is a real question, right? Sometimes if our information is subject to whatever the incident, then just having the credit monitoring, is it enough, or is there any extra step we should pay attention to?
There are several extra steps. Really, if you were getting cyber insurance, I would say 12 different ones that you have to do. But the basic things that you would start with, and call this a digital lockbox starter pack, for lack of a better word. Number one, use a password manager. Don't write them down. Don't have it on the back of your keyboard, or it definitely don't share it with other people, but use a password manager that generates complex passwords that you're not going to memorize. You're going to rely on that tool to provide the password for you when you need it. The second thing is to turn on multi-factor authentication. And what this means is, and everybody sees it and they use it, probably never knew it had a name, but let's say you log into your bank account and it says, give me a code that was just sent to your phone, and you look at your phone and you type in that code. That's one form of multi-factor authentication. And it's not just a PIN number, it's a number that's going to change every time you use it. Typically, you'll have an application like the Microsoft Authenticator or the Google Authenticator, or something like that, with the different things you log into, you sign up for it in advance. And say, for example, I have one on LinkedIn. So if I need to get to LinkedIn with a device that I'm not normally using, I better have my phone available, because it's going to send a message to my phone to use this authenticator program. Without that, I'm not going to be able to log in. I would say another important thing starts on the inside of your company, where you train your team or your assistants. And this is the basic security awareness training. It alone can reduce 90% of the attacks when all the best practices are handled every day, and people know not to click on something or don't even desire to click on it. And that's really where my team comes in, that we can help companies, small companies, even larger companies, start from the inside, where we take your weakest link, which you would consider to be the human, the employees, instead of thinking of them as the weakest, as a holding mindset, that you think of them as the first line of defense, a very strong barrier between your data, your intellectual property, your client's information, and the bad guys on the other side. They're your first line of defense. And we need to make sure that they understand that and take ownership of it.
Super important for the training. So they can spot it and they don't do the wrong thing when it happened in the first place. That's super important.
And they can be very tricky. The spam emails we're getting in, or phishing emails we get in now, they look so real, that because most of them were copied from real emails. And there's always going to be some subtle thing that you can find about it, but you really need to make sure that it's coming from who it says it's coming from. And you can do that just by hovering over the message. And if you hover over, instead of seeing Jeff's email, some unknown string of characters, then very good chance of that's phishing. Also, in your profession, you definitely want to verify every wire transfer verbally, and always calling using a known number and not your email. And then finally, getting cyber insurance. And like I said, depending on which underwriter you use, there are 12 different factors that have to be proven that you have in place sometimes before you can get a policy. And that's something that the CyberWild helps companies to do, to look at those gaps and help them get up to that level where they can get the insurance they need.
To ask you this question, a lot of people may say, oh, I'm a solo practice. I only have 1 to 5 employees. We're too small to be a target. What do you say to those business owners?
So you are the low-hanging fruit on the very big tree, because that's the kind of mindset that the hackers are looking for. That if you think that they're not interested in your data, but they are, and they will get them. Most of the time, it's automated, so it's not like you're being picked out of a group, but sometimes it could be a random thing, and they don't know how small or large you are. Mainly, they have an entry point. From that entry point, they will see what they can get from you.
Definitely, for sure. So I know your company, CyberWorld, provide this kind of services. Do you have any recommendation on essential tools people can utilize?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. Again, it's for the whole stack of what you can do to protect yourself and trying to reduce any type of risk down to an acceptable level. Well, number one is the security awareness training with the phishing simulation. Have that in place. Have it tuned in such a way that it provides the email phishing attempts that aren't obvious, that can look just about real, and they got to be related to something that somebody would actually be receiving an email from. This program also has what we call small micro classes, micro courses, maybe 10 minutes that people can take during a lunch break or something. And so it's not like they have to dedicate a whole lot of time to it. The second thing, other than doing regular audits that we have to do for compliance anyway, but having a 24/7 monitoring network would be ideal. And what I mean by that is manage, detect, and respond. I worked with one of the big 4 accounting firms. We had these type of managed services that provided to Fortune 500 clients and state governments. And that's exactly what they did. They provided all the security services for the clients so that the clients could run their business and not have to worry about the next attack that was trying to come through. So the way the MDR works is that it monitors logs from every system and looks, and not just logs, but looks for any type of peculiar behavior. It would look for you logging in from multiple places that are geographically impossible at the same time. User behavior analytics. Okay. It used to be that companies felt they had to build a huge environment to be able to run something like this, called a SOC, a Security Operations Center. And the tool that they use to collect the logs and aggregate them was called a CIM. Now, you can have all of that as a service, which also means you don't have to have a certain size. You don't have to have the personnel to maintain it every day, like I was doing years ago with keeping the servers that collect all this information, keeping them updated and backed up, and everything you can think of about them that has to be done with an on-premise system. Now, a company that can be a mom and pop, a 2-person show, or even an individual for that matter. I just set one up for an individual yesterday. They can be monitored, and there's actually eyes on the glass at our security operations center that if they see this, they're going to alert the owner. And if the owner has approved it ahead of time, they can actually do the remediation of it if it's possible. If it's a missing patch, if it's an account that needs to be locked out all of a sudden, or a system that needs to be isolated because it's spewing out messages to the rest of the network, they can actually isolate it from the rest of the network remotely.
There's a lot of things a company can do. Let me ask you this question. Just say I'm a mid-sized business owner. I want to evaluate my cybersecurity aspect of my company. Can you give us some advice where we should prioritize and where we should look for, what we should avoid?
Yeah, what you should prioritize, again, is the learning. It's looking at the gaps, trying to find the gaps. And that could be very simple, or it could be complicated as well as you want. For example, we also have what we call pen testing, penetration testing. And this is where your company contracts with someone like me to try to break into the network and to tell you how difficult, how hard it can be. Mainly, this is called a blue team, red team type of thing. So a red team is the ones that break into your network and show you where your weaknesses are, and the ones that play defense. they are patching things as the red team tells them that they found something. So having that done at least annually, I would do it more often, actually. Anytime there's a change in personnel or new tool added or major upgrades, it's good to, just like having a risk assessment, it's also good to have a penetration test.
And your company can work on both the red team and blue team. You will penetrate and see what needs to be done, and then you will also
Yes.
implement. Okay.
Yes. And what we do before there's any type of penetration test, a lot of companies won't do a penetration test. And there are good reasons for that. If a penetration test can bring your network down, they definitely don't want that to happen. Or if it could hurt operations, then you definitely want to make sure you're doing it the right way. And so a credible company like mine would never do something like that without having written approval to take it as far as you can. But usually companies just want to know where their gaps are. And even before we do that, we do a risk assessment in such a way that what I use personally is the NIST Cybersecurity framework. The older version is 5 different sections, and each section could have 100 questions to it. Let's identify the threats, protect from the set up your protection, your proactive stuff, also the reactive stuff, how do you respond to it, and also how do you recover. So all of that's part of it, having something in place. And it can be as simple as, do you have a disaster recovery plan? Do you have an incident response plan? Do you have a password management plan? So what we do is help you realize at that level what you're missing. If you don't require people to change passwords or have certain password complexity to it, then that's an internal control that's free to change. And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but you need to have a policy behind it to make sure people know that's what they're going to do. The incident response plan should not be a document that's written one time, then put on the shelf to gather dust. It needs to be looked at least biannually. And I would say practiced. Do tabletop exercises. You can bring in someone that can facilitate a tabletop exercise. That's something I can do as well. So we get all the stakeholders in a room, like the boardroom behind you there in your image, come together, and then the situation is presented to them. Like, okay, you just got a call stating that so-and-so systems are offline. That's all you know at this point. So what's the next thing you got? We're going to try to bring them back online. Can we bring them back online? The answer is no. Then why not? Let's look. Oh, the data's encrypted. Oh, that must be ransomware. And oh, look, there's an email from the bad guys telling us how much they want us to pay, and never pay it. Okay, just never pay the ransom. Helps prove their business model works, and we don't want their business model to work.
Yeah, you're facilitating criminal action. So what you just described remind me a quality concept we always talk about, which is corrective action, preventive action. So we have to preventive action first, make sure everything stays in control. But then in the meantime, if something happened, that you are targeted, you are attacked, you have to do the corrective action and make sure something is in place, report is in place, the penetration test is done on a frequent basis, training is in place, and people actually not only sit in the training, they actually do the right thing when something happened in the real world, in the day-to-day operation, which is super important. AI, social media, a lot of people put pretty much their whole life on social media. What kind of advice or anything you want to talk about it? People know where you're traveling to, when you're traveling, where are you on your vacation, and they put everything online. What do you want to say about that? I want to hear some of your opinion.
What I'll say about it, don't do it. And I know we're all guilty of that at some point. Maybe not necessarily on Facebook, but even when I'm going to a convention or something, say in Charlotte, I'll probably put an advertisement on LinkedIn promoting that event. It doesn't mean no one's home, but for people to say, yeah, our whole family's going on vacation the next number here, we're leaving on this day and blah, blah. Don't do that. Also, remember, the more stuff you put out there of your personal life, the more it can be copied and used against somebody else. I've seen this a whole lot on Facebook and sometimes on LinkedIn as well, but You get people that reach out to you that, oh, okay, this must be somebody I met. And yeah, they have common friends. So they must be part of this group. And I don't remember, but okay, I connect anyway. So what happens next? They introduce themselves and they're friendly. They have all these pictures of themselves as a glamorous lifestyle. And here I am on my yacht and blah, blah. And it's obviously fake, but you don't realize that at first. They use this type of psychology to get inside people's head, to get them to reveal things about themselves that are personal or whatever. Next thing they're talking about cryptocurrency or some type of big stock market secret. And once you hear that, or once you hear, okay, let's change platforms to App or Telegram, there's something up. There's a term called pig butchering. That is what I just described, is where these hackers or cyber criminals befriend people, and very often it's senior citizens, people that they know have money, people that they know a big IRA, a big 401k somewhere. And the objective of the criminal is to transfer that money from the senior citizen to themselves. Yeah. And they're very talented at it. They are professionally trained to do it. And sometimes it's a team of people talking as one person, and the poor victim on the other side, which is the pig, being butchered, meaning taking all his money, taking everything he's got to offer, is aware of it. It could be people like romance scams, that kind of stuff. Same type of thing, but it can really affect someone's future going forward with a big mistake like that, giving away too much information.
Especially financial lies, right? It's real.
Yeah.
A lot of people they don't think the risk is there, but it's actually there. I have a personal question in that regard. I sometimes get a random text saying, hey, Jay, this and that, how are you? Are you still in Long Island? This and that. I always just report spam, delete. Is that all I should do when I receive those text messages? They seem very familiar with me. They know who I am. They know where I used to live. And then they sometimes bring one or two person's name and what I should do that randomly, sometimes 2, 3 per day, sometimes 2, 3 per week.
Get those all the time. I get text messages from people, and it's usually, will you meet me for dinner tonight? Sometimes I respond to see what they're up to. Because I'm curious.
How do they find out who are those people? Are they doing the pig butcher thing?
100% of the time, they are going to steer you towards a currency investment scheme. People buy these lists and can harvest information from people using that list.
Yeah. Wow. That's very interesting to know. I don't even want to respond. Sometimes when it says spam likely, when I try to pick up call, I don't pick up.
I don't either. It's usually some type of quote policeman fundraising thing. It's all a scam.
We talk about several different tips we mentioned, right? The changing the password, using a password management software, education, and maybe penetration testing. If you gave some new investors one tip, what will that be related to the cybersecurity?
New investors, I would treat everything I have like a bank account. Because if someone gains information and accesses your email, what can they do? They can reset your logins. They can impersonate you. They can steal wire transfers. It would compromise every deal. Use a strong password, use the manager. You can come see me if you want some recommendations. I actually provide those in some of my product bundles. You always use MFA. I know it's aggravating. I know a lot of doctors don't like to use it in the hospitals, but they definitely need to know, assure that they're who they say they are before they get into patients' information. Don't ever skip it. Just remember that your email itself is the skeleton key to your digital life.
I say is the multi-factor authentication. I know a lot of people feel, oh, it's just too much. I have to make sure I have the phone next to me and I have to put all the random PIN number once I receive the text. But like what Jeffrey said, it's very important to have the multi-factor authentication. Jeffrey's contact information, the TheCyberWild. If someone is interested in your service or want to know more, can you let us know how people can contact you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, fill out a form, and I can contact you from there. Or sometimes I'll put ebooks out there that they can gather and use. Also, you can call me directly I have a very good toll-free number that's easy to remember when you spell it out. It's 855-664-2257.
We'll definitely put Jeffrey's contact information there. If the content is helpful for you, definitely think about your cybersecurity, what you are doing, what you have, what you should have, but you don't have. Reach out to people like Jeffery Lyon and then company CyberWild. Just really educate yourself. Make sure you don't fall into those cyber crimes as the victim. And final word from Jeff before we end this TMC live?
Sure. I'll also like to let your listeners know that I do offer free assessments to get it where you are. And it's not like a week-long thing. I take a couple of hours to go over some issues, some questions, and gauge where you are. So we can do that. I also have a little test, a little website that I can send anyone who's interested. If you think you're cybersecure, are you doing this and this? Or have you ever experienced something? And it'll give you a score on where you are. I don't think there's a direct link. I am revamping my website, and that's one of the things I need to do is make sure that everything is accessible from a central location, because put all of these things out there for different purposes, and sometimes they don't get linked back to the main page.
I want to end this episode with Warren Buffett famous words, never lose money. So never lose money to any cyber crimes, and make sure your assets stay safe. So we are encouraging people to reach out to us to come to this kind of TMC live so we can know your story. We can help you to spread out your expertise, and then stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you, Jeffrey, to come on, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, Chief. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I have a small family office. I could. Even a smaller family office, not a couple hundred people family office.
Yeah. And actually, that was recommended. I think Grant Cardone recommended doing that on one of his talks the other day, that everybody should do it. But I thought that was something only the wealthy did.
Yeah, we didn't set up the family office. We have a trust. Everything is not under our family. Like everything is under the trust name.
Yeah. Okay, Gene, this has been great. I look forward to our finished product.
Okay, I'll send you a link for sure.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Have
Okay.
a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
bye-bye.